it's an interesting fact that the anatomy of the human is very parallel to the anatomy of a horse. We have similar names for our musculature and other anatomical structures. So some of these techniques will be coming from more of a movement and sort of an elongating of musculature, which is great for horses and humans. And at the FernFest itself, I just wanted to make a note that we'll also be providing some demonstrations on body brushing, which is similar to what horses get after they've been out exercising, as well as live cupping demonstrations. So here we go. We're going to start by working on the rib cage. Often horse massage kind of works with a bit of effleurage, and so we can just kind of make contact with the person who's lying on the table initially with, say, some strokes of effleurage, and then just move into almost like taking the ribs on the opposite side of from where you're standing on the table and just kind of raking through the ribs like this. So you have to imagine that the anatomy of the horse is similar to the anatomy of the person, and the ribs have spaces in between them, like over here on this. This is the rib cage from the back, so we're just reaching across and we're raking in between these ribs. And what we're going to do is we're going to slightly rotate the spine just to get some mobilizing in through the spine. Yeah. And if you want to just kind of, so you want to be sure not to kind of hook your hands too strongly underneath the ribs, but you just want to kind of stroke like that. And you can even come down to the side of the person, right down onto their hips, and just kind of continue like that. Did you feel that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and so you can kind of work up into close to the underarm, because the ribs come actually all the way up this high, and then you can bring the movement down. And actually it's sort of interesting with her, because obviously she rotates more to her left than she rotates to her right, because you can feel how this is a little bit more stiff. So you can kind of rock her like you might push into a horse, you know. She's not that fragile, you're not going to hurt her. So, and then we took the palms and we kind of pushed the musculature away on that side. So I'm actually on the opposite side of her spine now, and I'm pushing the vertebrae, kind of pushing the muscles away from the vertebrae actually. So I'm just kind of taking my hand and dragging the muscle away from its attachment against the spine, all the way down to the lower back and all the way back up. And this feels great. And as you can see, my hands, they're fairly relaxed. Often if you watch a video where somebody looks like they're really pushing in, the person feels it. So you want to just be relaxed yourself. And like I said, this is kind of, you know, there's music playing at FernFest. It's a really happy atmosphere. We can just kind of go with the flow with this and start to mobilize her spine that way. And you can run along the same side as well, and just kind of relax your hands and the rest of your hands and your thumbs. So we did some rocking with the fingertips, and we did some rocking with the heels. Rocking with the fingertips, pushing the vertebrae away from the spine, pushing the muscles away from the spine, and pushing the muscles towards the spine here. So basically you don't really need the person to help you in any way. They don't need to raise their shoulder up for you. You can just kind of slide your hand underneath their upper arm to elevate their shoulder enough to get your hand in around just underneath the collarbone at the front. It's not down into the breast area. You actually want to be very careful. You know, you're working on people that don't know you, and so you want to keep your hand up around the edge of the collarbone, because that's also where the muscles of the pecs attach, and that's where it becomes more tight anyway. So you're sort of lifting your hand underneath to kind of elevate the shoulder a little bit like that. So you're using the wrist or the back of the hand to kind of lever the rest of your hand up. And you're just kind of taking the shoulder and you're lifting it and you're just sort of moving. And you can really hold the shoulder quite firmly. That actually feels good, doesn't it?
It's great.
And so people have a lot of tightness in their shoulder. They have a lot of tightness up here. And then what you can do is you can take this person's arm, and depending, they should be able to just let their arm hang a little bit. And in horse massage, they'll take the front of the arm and they'll actually extend it forward like this. So we can do that too. We can just kind of take the arm and we can just kind of feel like we're pulling the arm up and extending through the rib cage here, right? Just so they get a sense of elongating, and we can actually just even squeeze down the arm so they have a sense that they've had all their body parts sort of worked on. And that actually feels pretty good, doesn't it?
It's great.
Like I said, you can do some effleurage techniques in between. So we're going to work on the legs now, and you know, we can work the back of the calf muscle here just by squeezing, and then we can work up and we can work the back of the thigh, the hamstring muscle as well by doing this squeeze. But once we get up into the buttock, we want to actually put one hand on top of the other hand like that. So you want to just kind of use compression to work into the buttock. It feels better to have just a compression release and just kind of work into those muscles in the back of the glute. And as you get higher, you're working gluteus maximus more superficially, and then the medius and minimus up a little higher, the hip stabilizers there. So, and you can work back down. And then lift this up, and like we did before, just kind of rotate the leg a little bit over to the other side. You can kind of make a circle and use your elbow to just sort of put some compression into that gluteal area. And that feels just fantastic. Let's just pick up the leg again here, put it on the shoulder, and now we're going to separate those two heads of the gastrocnemius, the two sides, just down the middle. And then you take your interlaced fingers and you just kind of squeeze, and what you're doing is you're pulling that muscle away from its attachment into the bone. So you're just trying to kind of get some circulation in there with the squeezing together of your hand. It's kind of like this. You squeeze and pull it away, squeeze and pull away. Once you've squeezed and you've worked up and down, you can pick up that foot and you can just hold onto the heel. And what you want to do is you want to lengthen the Achilles tendon. So you're just kind of pulling here and you're just kind of, you can practically elevate them off the table. So that feels nice. So now let's just continue on with the legs. So, you know, horses run a lot, and I think it's kind of nice to sort of take the leg and just kind of give it a bit more of a stretch here, because it helps to stretch out the lower back. So basically I'm not really working very hard at all. I'm just kind of holding on to her foot around the front. I've got my thumb underneath her arch here and my hand on her heel, and I'm just kind of using my weight to sort of pull her weight back this way. And often people are tight along the hip rotators, the iliotibial band, the tensor fasciae lata, and this will feel great even if they have some lower back tension. And now I'm doing the same thing on this side. You can see where I have my hand underneath her foot and around her heel, and I'm just kind of again lengthening through her heel to sort of lengthen up through her hip and her pelvis. In fact, she's so connected, you can see her head moving right now up and down just from me pulling on her foot, which is great. So we'll sit at the head of the table and the individual will be lying here. So you're going to have the vertebrae in between your hand here. Your two hands are held together like this, and you're just underneath and you're making a circle like this and a circle to the other side like that, and you're just sort of pushing or kind of encouraging the vertebrae to go from one side to the other, just to kind of mobilize so that the head moves as well and is sort of related to the movement of the head and helps the neck feel more free and loose after the massage. So it's just kind of like you can reach down too, you know, you can get your hands fairly fairly low down underneath the thoracic. And this feels wonderful, you know, because a lot of people have upper back tension. So you're just kind of rolling around. And this is my way of, you know, it's like if I take the vertebrae here, her head can go there. If I take the vertebrae here, her head can go there. So we can just kind of encourage your head to kind of move from side to side. Just sort of mobilizing. And then you can put your hands up here because this is her yoke, like I was speaking about before. This is kind of like her steering wheel of her head. So she's not that tense. I can feel that she's got tension though in her upper shoulders for sure. So when I push her here, her head comes to the left. When I push her here, her head comes to the right because she's following the response. The response is to the movement of her skeleton. So she's just kind of turning her head from side to side. And then you can kind of lift her through here. They do this amazing thing with horses, is that they hold them underneath their belly and they actually just push them up underneath their belly and their whole entire back rounds in response. Now the other thing that's not very easy to do would be to traction a horse's head away from his body. You'd more or less have to have him kind of tuck his head under almost in between his legs to get him to stretch the back of his neck. But here we can just take the hands and just pull the head away from the rest of the spine. I just have my hands like this and I'm just kind of tractioning and I'm using the rest of my body. Just like that. And then if you want to finish the massage by doing some work on the jaw. Horses chew so much food in the course of the day and they just do that side to side grinding motion. Sometimes if they've got problems with their jaw, they'll have asymmetries, so we're no different than that. Sometimes we chew our gum more on one side than the other, or sensitive teeth cause us to be asymmetrical in our bite. Work all the way up into the head with that. Now I want to tell you one thing that is fantastic for horses is pulling their tail. To pull their tail feels so fantastic because that for them is like traction on their spine. Here I'm tractioning her from her head. But with a horse, a lot of body workers who work with horses tend to stand back and just take the tail, and the horse loves that, right? So what you can do here is you can just do a little bit of pulling in through the mane. You can just kind of pull the hair a little bit, just gently. You have to stay close to the roots. And you can do a little bit of head massage here as well, which feels wonderful. And then you can rub your hands together, and if we do have some things for across the eyes, then we'll use them. Otherwise you can just put your hands over top of their head, their eyes, and just kind of vibrate over their eyes. And just let them know that now your horse massage session is over.